A lot of people are wondering, is Zohran Mamdani for real? Does he actually have the chops to follow through on the plans that he has? Is he just a Johnny-come-lately who knew exactly what to say when he was running for mayor of New York City? He was a council member, and now he has the opportunity to make a real, not just a generational change, but a revolutionary change in New York City that could be felt throughout the whole country and beyond. So, even though they do not currently have an active channel anymore, got to give a shout out to the Gravel Institute guys who did a lot of quality content when they were actively pursuing a channel to compete with, obviously, PragerU, but they're not funded by oil billionaires like PragerU is, so it's a lot harder to keep it up. However, some very quality work came of it, including this piece of video from Zohran Mamdani back in 2020.
The truth is, this crisis didn't begin with the pandemic. In fact, housing has been in crisis for a very long time. Even before the pandemic, in places like New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, median rents for even one-bedroom apartments could approach $2,500 a month or more. About a third of people in Los Angeles spend a majority of their income on housing. In New York City, about 20% of all renters pay most of their income to their landlord. And in my district, Astoria, about a quarter of residents have to spend most of their paycheck on rent. And the crisis isn't just in big cities. In 95% of all US counties, workers making the minimum don't make enough to afford a one-bedroom rental on their own. The Harvard Center for Housing Studies warns of a new normal for housing in the United States, in which nearly half of all renter households spend almost a third of their income on rent. That's why even before the fallout from the coronavirus started to hit, more than 500,000 Americans nationwide were already homeless, millions more on the brink of losing their housing, and countless families struggling every month to make ends meet.
Can I ask you how this is supposed to be a positive note? You had said we're going to do something on a positive note. I'm not finding this all that positive.
Well, you have somebody who's trying to help the problem. And the one thing I will say when somebody
and don't get me wrong, I think he's a cutie poo, but it's still not, this is not positive. This is morbid.
If somebody is spending a third of their income on just rent alone, that there are so many other things that you have to account for. There is those cost of living components like food, travel, taxes. What are you doing to put money away? That's what makes it so difficult. In reality, if you're spending over 20% on your rent or mortgage, you're spending more than you really should have to. But unfortunately, we live in a world today where there are people that are spending 50% of their income on their living condition. So it's pretty bad. And obviously,
but the point is, he's been talking about this for quite some time, and he has obviously housing is one of his main issues as somebody that's in the New York State Assembly. So this is somebody who has been walking the walk already.
Absolutely.
At the root of all of this suffering is the fact that in this country, housing is treated as a commodity, not a right. It's a consumer product, just like clothes or cars, that private businesses can sell on the market to make a profit. And if someone isn't able to pay, either because their landlord raised their rent or because they can't work for one reason or another, they're not able to stay in their homes. If they're lucky, they can live with friends or family, or maybe in transitional housing for a bit. But for a lot of people, they have nowhere else to go, and they end up sleeping on the streets. In December 2019, the number of people sleeping in homeless shelters in New York reached 19,000 people, an all-time high. 100,000 New York City students are homeless. That's more than 10% of the entire student population. Why do so many people end up homeless? It's not because there aren't enough homes to go around. There are plenty of empty homes. No, it's because housing people is not the primary goal of developers or landlords. Their goal, simply put, is to make a profit.
And there it is. It's just another example of where universal basic services that are things that should just be part of our civilization because we've advanced to the point where we could all have those things. That's the beauty of it. But yet here, because of capitalism, everything has a profit motive. So everything, whether it's housing, healthcare, or education, corrections, things that should not have a profit motive for basic services. It's a huge problem. And, there are countries, I want to say, I think it's Austria is a country that a huge percentage of their people live in what is government housing. And government housing is a wide range of different types and styles of housing. And there's nothing unusual about that. It's just considered part of life as you get healthcare, housing, education. Like, it's just how this should be.
One of the hardest parts about working in commercial real estate and also being involved in the multifamily space is a couple of factors. Number one, when you're dealing with anything related to low-income housing, there are no standards. In fact, people tend to live like animals in the worst conditions that you could possibly imagine. It would be a lot easier to maintain good housing in this country if we actually had legitimate regulation on how people are living. You want to get a subsidy for the government, you have to actually care about the community that you're living in. Now, that's part A. Part B is that when it comes to housing in the United States, particularly housing in which contracts are given, as you can see in this graphic right here, look in the corner, ladies and gentlemen, what do you see? Luxury condos, not affordable housing, luxury condos, because the overwhelming majority of housing in a country that has not enough housing as we speak, what type of housing gets built? Housing that is built for profit, housing that is built for the highest of high demographics. Workforce housing is very hard to find. And the only ones who are truly interested in that generally are ones that are finding another avenue to make the extra profit so that it's really no different if they were investing in luxury housing. And when we say that we need real regulation in the United States, this is a prime example of that. We don't have it. If even something as simple as a government-run grocery store, and we're only talking one in each borough, is going to level the playing field enough that the Greek billionaire grocery store owner of New York City is having a conniption fit over the prospect of just one in each borough appearing, that goes to show you how completely out of whack the system is and how there needs to be a course correction, perhaps a complete rethinking of how our economic and political system operates. But there is no question that what Zohran is talking about, even here 5 years ago, is correct.
And it's much more profitable to build luxury apartments for the rich than decent homes for the poor. This gives us a big shortage of homes for ordinary working people. For every 100 households that are extremely low income, there are only 36 affordable and available homes. As a result, we have plenty of housing for the rich, but poor and working class people don't have nearly enough on the market. So it's no surprise that in 1919, at the first elections ever held in Austria where all adult citizens could vote, the Social Democratic Party swept into power at the municipal level on the promise of dramatic social and economic reform. And they delivered. The new government of Vienna implemented a huge range of services, including public health care and public child care. They built high-quality hospitals, schools, and recreational facilities. But their crowning achievement was an ambitious program of social housing, what Americans call public housing, that began in 1923 and saw 60,000 new apartments constructed in the first year of its existence, built by the government and financed by taxes on the rich. But these weren't the kinds of apartments you might picture when you think of public housing in the United States. Drab high-rises plagued by chronic neglect and underinvestment. Residents could enjoy leafy courtyards, wide-open spaces, and plenty of natural light. They had shared laundries, state-of-the-art kitchens, food co-ops, bathhouses, pharmacies, lecture halls, schools, and swimming pools. These apartments were designed to be both beautiful to look at and beautiful to live in, fostering a sense of shared community among the people who lived there. And the best part was that because the city didn't have to worry about making a profit, just about paying off their maintenance costs, these homes were both much nicer and much cheaper than what workers had previously known. In 1926, the average rent in Viennese social housing was about just 4% of a monthly wage. The first 15 years after Austrian independence saw its capital transform from a symbol of urban blight into a beacon of socialist governance.
I mean, just look at how beautiful that looks. That's what it did look like. And that, hold on. Can we just get on that image? Come on. Come on.
I don't understand what you're trying
capital
to
transform from a symbol of urban blight into a
I mean, that looks pretty nice to me, don't you think?
Yes, it looks lovely.
beacon of socialist governance. It became known as Red Vienna, after the official color of the socialists who had pioneered these changes. And even though Red Vienna fell in 1934 when the country was seized by fascists, who did what they could to roll back social housing, that commitment to good, cheap housing remained after the Second World War. Today, an astonishing 62% of all city residents live in social housing,
That's what
with
I
the
was
average
saying,
monthly rent falling
yeah,
somewhere between
yeah.
$400 and $600 a month, with subsidies for lower-income tenants. That is a fraction of what people in America pay.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. They're Austrian. And it's totally a typical thing. I mean,
Bernie Sanders wants to turn America into Sweden. No, it's Zohran Mamdani that wants to turn America into Sweden. Maybe he's right. It's probably better than what we could say. Let me tell you, probably anything is better than what we have now. And this is why, if he becomes the next mayor of New York City, he's going to be a welcome change. He's going to be a breath of fresh air.
we shall wait and see. We shall wait and see.
They better hold
And
his feet to the fire.
it's still, there's a lot of things to happen still.
Yes. And there's also a lot of people that are going to push back on him. And there's also a lot of people that are going to be working against him, including.
If part of the issue with your party, do you think, is not embracing enough of the energy on the left flank of your party? You're seeing what's happening in your neighboring state in New York. Zohran Mamdani, he's the Democratic candidate, Democratic socialist candidate there. Democratic leaders are not supporting him. Is that a problem?
You know, he's looking at him like, how in the hell did I allow you to back me into this corner and ask me this question?
I cannot with Cory Booker.
Do you support him?
So you and I are going to have this conversation, and I'm going to say to you one day, I told you so. This is not a left-right issue. It really isn't. It is an authoritarian versus people who want pragmatic government that makes a difference in the lives of American people.
I'm sorry. So who's the authoritarian?
Zohran is an authoritarian.
Is that what that's so? Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's pretty funny if you ask me.
This man who dances like a fucking puppet for AIPAC and probably doesn't have an independent thought outside of what Big Pharma tells him to do. He's sitting here and suggesting that Zohran is authoritarian. Okay, I just need to understand what we're dealing with here.
Oh, Lord.
One of these people that says the lines that divide us in America are not nearly as strong as the ties that bind us. Big corporations, people want to keep our eyes on the screen, want to pit us against each other and tell us how much we should hate each other. I'm sorry. The left-right lens is not the right lens to look at this right now. Right now it is, can we get back to the pragmatic work of governing?
About Mamdani, are you going to support him?
I have learned a long time ago. Let New York politics be New York politics. We got enough challenges in Jersey. I got a governor's race. I'm supporting Mikey Sherrill. I got legislative races. That's where my energy is going to go going into November. New York City, I love you. You're my neighbor. You're about 10 miles from where I live. You guys figure out your elections. I'm going to focus.
Now, I will say this, and I do not say anything kindly about this piece of shit, because this is a whore of whores.
He doesn't need to be commenting on New York politics.
No, and that I do agree with. It's not like it's not in his district. That is different. So when you're talking to someone like Hakeem Jeffries, who's just sitting there and acting like, oh, I don't know him well enough to have an opinion. The hell you don't. You know, like that's ridiculous. Now with Cory Booker, he probably does, but he does have legitimate reason to not get involved in that race. And he's also a lying piece of shit. So it's like where multiple things can be true.
That's true. But the way that he cannot answer a question.
No.
Some of them are better at sidestepping. He's really bad at it. Like he does not know how to do it.
I think I can answer this for you, Jan. Also, I think Jan is in Ireland, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that the link between India and Israel is the supremacy. It's a matter of supremacy. and a system that is about keeping people othered and lower. There is a lot of people in command in India that are, I mean, they're Hindu supremacists, like I guess you would call it, Hindu supremacists. And they also have issues with Muslims. And so they view Israel in a similar, they have a similar problem there with their Palestinians that we in India, supremacist Hindus, have with our Muslim population. We can't quite deal with it. So I think that's probably why India has a certain siding with Israel.